Roe v. Wade and Casey have been overturned. The culture war is raging, and the question is, who's winning? Stay tuned, because it may not be who you think it is. This morning, as expected, as the leak proved correct, Roe v. Wade and Casey versus Planned Parenthood have been overturned. You have people on the right who are celebrating, who are like, yes, this is a win. This is a win for Trump. Trump put conservative Supreme Court justices on there, and they did what people like the Heritage Foundation wanted. They have finally overturned Roe v. Wade, and now it goes back to the states, where states can begin implementing laws that further restrict abortion, or in some cases, outlaw it completely. I'm looking over and I'm seeing a wide range of takes. I'm seeing Black conservatives who are happy that, finally Black children, Black babies, Black unborn babies can be protected in the womb. I'm seeing Republicans celebrating because they feel that this is a major step for them and their ideology. They struck a major blow in the culture war. I'm seeing individuals on the left very, very upset. Some people are saying that this is in itself a horrible thing and it's bad for women. It means that women's rights are no longer being respected, that women no longer have control over their own bodies. I'm seeing people on the left talk about this is just the beginning. They're coming after same-sex marriage. They're coming after interracial marriage. They're coming after contraception and a whole host of other things next. And then I saw a take from the Libertarian National Party, which isn't a take you would have seen 2 months ago. So if you don't know, because I haven't really spoken about it, the Libertarian National Party is now under the control of the Mises Caucus. The Mises Caucus had been talking about for some years about taking over the party, and as of the last convention, which was a few weeks ago, they successfully took over the party, and they're in control of messaging, they're in control of the direction. And one of the first things they did was remove the National Party's plank on abortion, where that it's not the government's job to decide what the right position on abortion is. So today, the Libertarian Party basically issued a decision that, hey, there's people that are pro-choice, there are people that are pro-life, and they shouldn't have to live in the same state. And hey, national divorce. I personally think that's an absolutely ridiculous take. It makes no sense. Let me tell you why. Because what you're saying is, it's no longer about protecting the life of unborn children. It's no longer, that can't be what it's about. Because if that's what it's about, then it doesn't matter whether it's happening in my state or the next state over. If that's what you care about, if that's what you're claiming to care about, then you should have a problem with it, right? Because you're saying, no, I just don't want babies being killed in my state. Then I would say, well, then why don't you just worry about babies not being killed in your house? Or better yet, why don't you just worry about babies not being killed by you? If it doesn't matter if it's happening someplace else, why is the delineation that you only care if babies are getting killed in your state? You don't care that babies are getting killed in another state? You don't care that babies are being killed in another country? Because something's not connecting at this point. So either your entire position is somewhat disingenuous, or you do care and you're not actually in favor of other states having their own policies. But this is just something you're saying just to justify the idea of states deciding. It leads me to believe that you would fully support the federal government instituting a one-size-fits-all policy if it was the policy that you supported. That's what it's looking like to me. So I'm seeing some libertarians celebrate this decision, because there's some libertarians that say, hey, I'm a pro-choice, I'm a pro-life libertarian. There's some libertarians that say, hey, I'm a pro-life libertarian, and this is a great decision. And I'm like, wait a minute. Did you read the case? Did you read the case? Because I read the case. Well, I haven't even gotten to the dissents yet, the dissents or the concurrence. But let me tell you about the summary, because in the summary, they mention a point that if any libertarian reads that should be a cause for us to be like, yeah, this is a bad decision. You see, one of the points that they make in the summary is that the 14th Amendment, the liberty interest, as defined by Casey, was too broad in their opinion. Their decision on this case is that Casey provided too much liberty in the 14th Amendment, and they needed to drastically narrow that. Why did they need to drastically narrow it? They needed to drastically narrow it because if they didn't, it would justify the end of the drug war and the end of the sex work war. So if they didn't narrow the definition and the scope of liberty that was contained, that's protected by the 14th Amendment, they're saying the government would no longer be able to wage the war on drugs or to wage the war on sex work. And libertarians are celebrating this decision. Like, that's libertarianism 101. And the war on drugs and the war on sex work. They start out on page 2 talking about the 14th Amendment and the liberty interest contained in the 14th Amendment, and they're talking about the limits of it. When you go to page 4, they will talk about attempts to justify abortion through appeals to a broader right to autonomy and to define one's concept of existence prove too much. Those criteria at a high level of generality could license fundamental rights to illicit drug use, prostitution, and the like. And that's the part that should really alarm libertarians. So let's go to page 30, and it talks about Roe termed this right to privacy. Casey described it as the freedom to make intimate and personal choices that are central to personal dignity and autonomy. At the heart of liberty is the right to define one's own concept of existence, of meaning, of the universe, and of the mystery of human life. 31. Ordered liberty sets limits and defines the boundary between competing interests, because what they're saying here is they don't like us having that broad a scope of liberty. This is literally what they're saying in the case. This is one of the fundamental holdings of this case, that Casey defined liberty too broadly. So these attempts to justify abortion through appeals to a broader right to autonomy and to define one's concept of existence prove too much. They're literally saying Casey gave us too much freedom, too much liberty. And they're saying that this could lead to justification for drug use and prostitution. As libertarians, this is this is completely antithetical to what we're supposed to stand for. Completely antithetical. That they overturned Casey so that they could continue the war on drugs and can continue the war on sex work without running afoul of how they're interpreting the Constitution. This case limits the definition of liberty to continue those wars, and libertarians are celebrating this decision. That's why my suggestion for any libertarian who's celebrating this decision is to read this decision. But let me get back to the other sides of the culture war. The Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, liberals. Right now, liberals are, feeling down. They're upset. They're angry. They're outraged. And conservatives are like, yes, we got them. We won. Because yesterday, the Supreme Court issued a case on New York gun laws and basically expanded New York gun laws. So it definitely seems like the conservatives have a lot to celebrate. I noticed something about the timing of Dobbs v. Jackson today. You know what else happened this morning? Congress passed new federal gun legislation. You might have missed that. You might have missed that because you were either as a conservative running victory laps about Dobbs v. Jackson, or as a liberal, wailing in the street over Dobbs v. Jackson. You might have missed that. As of today, Friday, June 24th, 2022, the 14th Amendment is less expansive and less protective of our freedoms, of our liberty, and the Second Amendment is less protective of our liberty. So today, we lost 2 amendments were drastically limited, and you still got people on the right running victory laps, oblivious to what's actually just happened. So who's winning? Because right now, there's a lot of people who are thinking because of Dobbs v. Jackson, because of the Supreme Court decision yesterday, conservatives are winning. No. And so now you may say, well, liberals are winning, then why are they upset? Well, liberals aren't winning either. You know who's winning? Government is winning. Because that's what happens when this culture war bullshit continues. Government wins. We lose. So until conservatives, liberals, pseudo-libertarians, libertarians, until everyone takes their heads out their ass and stops playing these culture war games and realize, wait a minute, the only one that wins in this culture war nonsense is government. We all wind up less free. This side gets a win by restricting this side's freedom. This side gets a win by restricting that side's freedom. We all become less free. This isn't rocket science. At some point, people have to stop playing these stupid games and pay attention. Pay attention. It's that simple. Because if you realize that right now, 18-year-olds can't own certain guns. They can't own certain guns. Second Amendment has been severely restricted based on legislation that was passed by Congress, by both houses of Congress, will be signed by Biden, I'm guessing sometime today. And the Supreme Court did its job in drastically narrowing the scope of the 14th Amendment and our liberty interest under the 14th Amendment. We're losing people. If we don't wake up and stop playing these kid games, these foolish, ridiculous games, worrying about what other people are doing with their own lives, we're all going to lose. As always, don't forget to hit the thumbs up, like, share, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. But if you disagree with me, if you think, no, this is something that needed to be done, whichever issue you're talking about, whether you're talking about the gun issue or the abortion issue, if you disagree with my take on it, feel free to give me the thumbs down. State in the comment section which issue you think I'm wrong on, and I'll discuss it either in a future video or in the comment section. I'll see you next time.